Okay, hello, Ian. So I've just finished listening via Audible the book that you have. Uh, Congrats on the 4-year process of writing.
Yes, yes, I told you about that already. 4 years. I think it was at least 4 years. Although there was times when I took a break from it and probably wasn't doing very much with it, especially especially in the last year when I was just thinking about, oh dear, how do I fix these things that are a bit weird and dodgy. So hopefully I managed to fix them in the end.
So maybe just a brief introduction about what you do. So you're from the UK. You're not. You're from England, or
well, I'm from Scotland, really.
You're
from Glasgow, Scotland. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And right now you're in Moscow, and you've been living in Moscow for a few years now.
Ooh, loads of years. Yeah, I think it's probably about 6 by now. It's a while. Yeah, time flies.
And you've done quite some traveling, and that is also probably reflected in the book.
Yeah, I used to travel around a lot with work. So now I'm just based more or less the whole time in Moscow. But I used to travel around to lots of different places in Western Europe.
You have a background in IT, and currently you're doing English lessons.
Yep. Yeah, I'm doing English as a foreign language. So that's what took me to Moscow. Yeah, but before that I was doing IT in various different industries. And the final thing I was doing in the IT world was banking. I was working for a banking software company.
Did you ever write? Was it a hobby?
No, not really. I mean, I probably, when I was in my 20s, I tried to write a few things, a bit of poetry, a few short stories, but I never, then sort of career took over and I never got round to trying to be any sort of a proper writer. I just let it all drop.
But you're an avid reader, so probably
avid. Yeah.
Reading,
again, that's on and off. Yeah.
Reading brings out this desire to write, or how would you say it?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. So that was probably the only reason why I thought it might be worth my while having a go at writing something, because I was quite an avid reader. It was a bit on and off. So some periods in my life I haven't read. I'd let maybe a year or two go by without reading a single thing, apart from maybe a newspaper or magazine articles. But then all of a sudden, I thought, oh, this is something I always wanted to do, and it's about time I got around to doing it. Otherwise, it'll be, too late.
Do you prefer the normal paperback versions, or listening on Audible, or do you mix?
Yeah, I mix a bit. Yeah. Nowadays, I use my phone for reading all the time, just with what's it called, Kindle on my phone. Because then that means I don't have to carry anything extra around with me, and I can just do a bit of reading when I'm on the bus, 5 minutes of reading, 10 minutes or whatever, and it's just easier to keep going. I sometimes pick up a paperback these days and find that after 2 or 3 pages, I've put the paperback down somewhere and I can't find it again, or, somehow it's just more difficult for me to read paperback or hardback books these days.
So maybe it has something to do with the glow of the phones and everything. I agree.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you've always got it on you, and so even if you think, oh, I'm a bit bored now, what can I do? Oh yeah, I can read something. So it's just easier. Whereas with a paperback, you have to kind of make time, switch the telly off, make sure you're not doing anything, and then remember where you were in the paperback, and it's just a little bit more difficult somehow. And audiobooks, I do quite like them, but somehow it's not the same. I find myself considering that I've cheated a little bit if I just listen to an audiobook. Although some are very good, you've got Stephen Fry reading the Harry Potter books.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That was really good. He really did it so well, you know. Yeah. The guy that read my book, I think he did pretty well. He did different voices, acted out things quite well. So overall, I was very pleased with what he did.
Was that one guy?
Yeah, it was all one guy. You know, I meant to check his name and I've forgotten it. Anyway, he's mentioned, if you get the audiobook, he mentions himself, of course. He says who narrates the book.
Yeah, I'll just look it up. Paul Hillier.
Yes, that's it. Yes.
How did you find him?
I think it all went through ACX, a thing called ACX, and you know, you just find each other that way.
So when did you start the writing process? Did you have the idea like growing inside, and you were traveling and thinking that you're traveling to Moscow, you're in IT, why not write a book?
Yeah, the first thing I remember trying to do, probably around about 2008, 2007, was writing one or two little bits and pieces when I was in Helsinki. And, you know, it was just one or two little bits of description of, you know, what this place looked like, what the bank looked like. And that was it. And I proudly sort of patted myself on the back and thought, oh, that's pretty good. I've made a start. But I didn't do anything again until 2014, I think.
Yeah, that's a big lag.
It was a big lag.
Did you have some kind of writing coach or someone who would stand behind you with like, Iain, how many words have you written today or something?
Not to that degree, but yes. I mean, in 2014, when I started to take the idea seriously, and I think I probably wrote the opening chapter, although what it turned out to be not the opening chapter. I started much more in the middle of the book when I first wrote it, and then I thought people were complaining that they didn't know what was going on, so I wrote back and back and back to try to explain what was going on. So yeah, the first thing I did was I got a how to write a novel book out of a junk shop or a secondhand bookshop. Can't remember which one it was. Then
somewhere
I joined
here in Moscow.
No, it was in Scotland somewhere in a little village, which can't remember which. Anyway, it was in a little village somewhere. And it was just a secondhand bookshop. They had this book written by an American guy. I can't remember who it was, but it's quite a famous book, quite old-fashioned. And then the next thing I did was like join a sort of writing community in Glasgow, and a lot of the people there were writing zombie books and stuff like that. They didn't think my book was wonderfully exciting because, you know, their books were full of zombies and lots of beheadings and what have you. But still, it was good to show people what you'd written and get some feedback about it.
So it was kind of a weekly thing, or?
Yeah, it was weekly or fortnightly. Yeah, it was weekly, but it was kind of fortnightly because most people only ever came every 2 weeks. And then I did, so I don't know how far that took me. It took me to probably about 40,000 words. And then I left Glasgow, came to Moscow, and carried on writing here. But by then I'd started to take it a bit more seriously, and I did some more sort of serious courses that were, you know, by email, more or less. Okay. One of them was Curtis Brown, the agency. So they had various courses. I did all three of them, in fact. One of them was how to write the introduction to your book, then something about plotting, probably, I can't remember, plotting in character, and then something about how to write and present your book. So I did all that, and sort of finished it. Well, I was actually writing 2 books at once. So on some of these courses, I'd abandoned the Zima Confession. Thought, oh yeah, it's not going to be interesting to everybody. It's probably quite dry, quite an old person's book. It's not full of action. So I tried to write something else that's a bit more full of action. And so when I was doing some of these courses, on some of them I was concentrating on the Zima Confession, on others I was concentrating on this other book that I was writing.
Did you publish the second book?
No, I've just kind of finished it at the moment, and I'm just not quite there. I need to, I don't know, I need to do a few things to it before I try to publish it, and then I'll have a go.
What was the writing process like? So did you fix some kind of time that you would write, or simply sit and do nothing or write? Or was it like only weekend days?
Yeah, well, in my job now, in this teaching job, I've got quite a lot of time in the day. And so very often I do sit down for an hour or two. It's not a particularly fixed time, but at some point in the day, I'll have an hour or two that I can sit down and try to write. And I try not to sit at home doing it, because I find if I sit at home, I get bored and don't do as much as I should. So I wander into a cafe usually and try and do it there.
Okay, and do you write it on a PC or do you handwrite it?
No, not hand. Oh goodness, no. It's definitely got to be a PC. Yes, because as well as that, I fiddle around with the sentences. If it was handwritten, it would be just a disaster. It'd be all sorts of crossings outs and little notes in the margin. So it has to be a PC for me.
Because I was listening to an interview by Timothy Ferris with Neil Gaiman, and as I understand, Neil prefers to write his books, at least initially, to handwrite them. And Neil was telling a story that he bought at some kind of pawn shop a very old booknote, probably made out with paper that was used like in the 20th century, maybe even earlier, and he isn't writing in it, and he's keeping it for something special, some special idea that will come to him, and he will use that notepad when the idea comes. So probably.
I think I used to do that kind of thing in the when I was in my 20s, trying to write short stories and poems, and I tried to write in a very nice way and make it all wonderful and perfect. And it doesn't really work for me. I sometimes write notes. So if an idea comes to me, I'll write it down by hand. But actually, even with notes nowadays, I've got an app on my phone which I use to type notes into.
What app do you use?
I can't remember it, but it's quite a simple app that you just make notes.
Okay.
I can find out in a minute. I don't want to go away from Zoom in case some catastrophe happens, because I'm not very good at parking apps and shuffling them all around. I can tell you later. It's really quite a simple thing. And all it does is keep track of it. And the one good thing about it is you can then email all the notes to yourself. So you can just write down any stupid little idea that comes into your head, and then you might get a collection of 20 scrappy little notes, but you can email them all to yourself and then sort out the mess afterwards.
Have you ever tried using voice-to-text software like Dragon or Google or whatever?
I haven't, no. That might be a good idea, but given that I usually write in a cafe, I'd be a bit embarrassed trying to do that.
Well, it will be fun, probably.
But I've done it the other way around. I've done text to voice to listen to what I've written, because well, especially for picking up silly little mistakes, it's quite good, because sometimes you read something, you don't notice you've missed a word or whatever. But if you use that, you can just immediately hear it, and you can potter around doing other things at the same time. So yeah, I quite like that.
Okay, so maybe going to the book, on the high level, I see that there is a lot of socialism versus capitalism, wealth versus poor, and what will come after we change the current economic state. So have you been, so I wouldn't say that the book comes to a certain end idea. Probably from my understanding, the book states that there is no alternative option that is good. And if we make a revolution, if we change, if we say no to capitalism without having a clear answer to the question, what next, then there will be a lot of struggle. So why did you base the book on this idea?
Yeah, you've summed up the idea very well, actually. And the reason that I did that was, I think back in 2007, 2008, when the crisis hit us, I could see, like George Soros and others, I could see suggestions of us going in the wrong direction. And, you know, I thought to myself, oh dear, you know, I feel as though I'd been there and done it, you know, as somebody who was interested in socialism and getting pulled further and further to the left. I thought, oh, kids these days are jumping to this conclusion, this sort of Marxist conclusion, and going for it, you know, full out, pull on, or whatever the expression is, going full speed towards revolution, or, you know, very risky solutions to the problem. And I think that's still the case at the moment. I think society is being polarized, with some people defending the status quo and others launching themselves completely to the left in the hope that things will be better. And I think there's a big danger that things won't be better.
Yeah, probably.
But perhaps that's me, you know, just being old and becoming more conservative now. So, and you're right, I didn't want the book to draw any conclusion, to actually push people towards a conclusion about which of these alternatives is going to be good, whether we should stick with the status quo or become revolutionaries. I just wanted to try to set out the dangers, that it could be dangerous, you know.
Yeah. And you're saying that you were interested and probably are interested in socialism. So did you study socialism, or were you related to the ideology? Or?
I mean, not very thoroughly, but I hung around. So the sort of opening scenes are like me and my friends hanging around in the good old days, and we used to sit there, even though we hadn't read it. We used to sit there discussing Das Kapital and the Grundreis and what have you. I think I had some books on Marxism. It was, I can't remember who it was, even some Italian guy, quite a big thick book, and some like just pamphlets and this and that. And I used to hang around with people who were properly into it, but probably no better educated on the subject than I was.
Was that probably the Thatcher era, or a bit?
It was, exactly, yeah. So yeah, it was. So I think, I can't remember what date I plumped for in the end to start the book. I think it was either 77 or 79. I kept getting mixed up.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So Thatcher was elected in 79, but there were sort of parties and goings on, like as described in the book, let's say from the punk era, so 76, when punk sort of became big, 76, 77. And punk was supposed to be quite a revolutionary, you know, cultural event.
And Thatcher was like pro-socialism, if I'm correct.
Thatcher was very anti-social. She was a conservative MP and sort of switched Britain back from its post-war consensus on political ideas. In particular, she pushed free markets very much, whereas there'd been a post-war consensus based around Keynesianism and public spending, nationalized industries, all were brought into being after World War II in Britain. And Thatcher more or less denationalized all of the nationalized industries and tried to make Britain into a free market economy.
Oh, okay, so I was absolutely wrong there.
you were completely in the wrong direction, yeah. But yes, yeah, and then so since, well, yeah, let's not delve too deeply into UK politics.
And I visited the internet site today. It's very nice and it's very minimalist, I would say, and at the same time it has enough content. And yeah, it starts in 1977, Glasgow. Richard Slater comes up with the idea that if he was to hide in deep cover until he gets into a position of responsibility, he would then be able to unleash a devastating act of sabotage capable of starting a revolution. Yeah, so 1977 and long planning. Why did you name it the Zima Confession? I remember in the book that that Zima is a code name for go on, start. But you started the book in 2008 and you were more Finland associated at that point, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yes, no, it took me it was a bit of a dodgy decision to make Russians the bad guys in this book, but I just couldn't think of anyone else that would be feasible, you know. So, and I had visited Moscow in 2005, so before I started writing the book in 2014. So I knew a little bit about what Moscow looked like, and I thought it would be a good setting for some of the scenes in the book. So basically, it all followed from that it would be Russian, like ex-Soviet people that would be in the background pulling the strings while Richard Slater bumbles around trying to be a socialist, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And the title is a bit obscure, but I don't know if I want to give away why it's called The Confession, but you need to think about it.
Okay.
Sorry.
I think I haven't thought about it, but I probably should, yeah. Because at university, there is probably always, when we study to get into university, Russian classical literature of the 19th, 20th century, you get to read all those critical notes on why the author chose a certain name for the book. And here I haven't had...
I could tell you privately, but I don't want it sort of... It's one of the things that I hope that people would think about and think, oh yeah, oh that's why. But you know, it's one of the, because there are certain little puzzles in the book that I hope the reader will be entertained by, you know, thinking about these little puzzles, and that's one of them.
Okay, and so I would say that there are a few main characters in the book. That's Richard, Dr. Skinner, Weber, Melanie. And Weber, I would say that he's probably German or something. Am I correct?
Well, I was going to, I was going to confuse everyone by Weber. He's really Russian, actually.
Okay.
What I wanted to do with him was imply that he was German, but being German is really his cover, So everyone in MI5 thinks he's German, but he's not. And I was going to run a competition, but I couldn't publicize the competition well enough to get everybody interested, because I thought, if I have some sort of competition whereby people reading the book have to solve the puzzle of why Weber is called Weber, I'll give a prize for it. I mean, not a huge prize, but some sort of prize. But it kind of fell flat, that whole idea, because, interest in the book is not big enough to justify running a big competition for it. It's a kind of a chicken and egg. If I could do it, it would be good publicity. But since it would be expensive to try to publicize the competition, it's not really possible, But he is Russian, really, just that everyone thinks he's German.
I wouldn't say that he's Russian initially, but he does have close contacts with
Yes,
Russians.
That's right. So it's clear in the book that he is actually working for the Russians. It's not so clear that he is actually Russian, and that Weber is just a cover name or a cover identity.
And Melanie, that's also, I think that's a romantic, good angle to the book, and probably each thriller should have such an angle. What role does she play?
Oh, quite a big role. I mean, she's, as you say, the love interest, and actually, she's kind of the only good guy in the story. Even Richard's a bit slippery and slimy, but Melanie is pretty much the hero, really.
Melanie has this only one personality, and she has no ultimate interest to distort reality, as I would say it. Would that be correct?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. Yeah.
I didn't understand the snake. So the association with the snake coming, and I would say that Richard's personality changed when he saw the snake, and there's the snake on the cover of the book.
The snake was, I mean, maybe. So the idea is that, I can't give away too much of what's happened to him, but what's happened to him is suppressed by these images of snakes. So anytime when he tries to break out of the condition that he's in, these snakes appear, scare him, and distract him from concentrating on what could flip him out of the state that he's in, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so there's a lot of about personality change and
that's right.
Neural programming. Did you do a lot of reading research on that, or I would say that initially the book sounds like it is a page turner, definitely, and I would say because I did read a lot of Grisham, that's why I compared to it being Grisham-like style. But I would also compare it with maybe the Bourne Legacy, with this change in personality.
I see. I've hardly read any Grisham. I don't think I've read any of his really big books, and I've only seen the films of the Bourne films. But I'm quite interested in sci-fi, so it was just, to me, it was just a sci-fi idea. So it's fairly realistic style of sci-fi, I would say, but it is just a speculative, let's call it speculative technology. So that sort of technology might exist, or it might not, and I was just using it as a way of of allowing the character to have this unusual personality, you know, that he's not aware of, you know.
And Richard is in IT. I understand that that's a large percentage of the human resources in any modern bank. And there are also people from India, there are local guys. So that's written from reality, from your being in banking IT.
Yeah, that's right. So I tried to keep all those sort of details as realistic as I could. There are one or two bits of cheating, like there is no building directly on the Thames on the north side of the river. That's exactly as I described the building in the story, and some other little bits and pieces are not exactly as described in the story. But pretty much I wanted to keep it very realistic in terms of describing what I, you know, just people and places, you know, people and places should be reasonably accurate in the book.
And maybe a bit on publishing. So you decided to publish the book yourself on Amazon?
Kind of myself, yes. It's not really directly, I didn't do it directly myself with Amazon. I did it through Indie Authors World, and they are based somewhere near Glasgow, and they help to sort of format the book and put it all together. And particularly for the paperback and hardback versions, they were kind of essential. Yeah, because I know I'm kind of aware of people that put their book directly on Amazon, and the chances are it will just disappear without trace, because I don't know how many books are published by Amazon, but quite a lot.
Yeah, probably.
And you have to be really, really lucky to get any traction at all. Having said that, I don't have very much traction with this book, but at least I've got a paperback and hardback that if it wasn't for COVID, I think I'd be able to get out and about and sell it physically myself, you know.
Yeah, probably you could do some presentations in Moscow. And
yeah, I wonder, maybe I hadn't even thought of doing that. I was really itching to get back home to UK to try to do that sort of thing, but maybe I could actually.
And just for your information, I know that they have the London Business Club in Moscow, headed by Luke Connor. He's a solicitor here in Moscow, and they do sometimes these kind of business socializing evenings. And I remember a few times they did them related to someone publishing a book. Okay. So maybe you could also just write them and find some mutual points of interest.
What are they called again? The London?
Business Society. I will email you the link.
Yeah, great. Okay.
I think it's London Business Society or something, London Business Club, something like that.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great.
But you do have traction, and you do have quite a number of opinions on the book, at least on your on the internet side, and I think that's
true. Yeah, yes, that's true. I have managed to get quite a lot of people to review it, mostly sort of friends or friends of friends or ex-colleagues, that sort of thing. Also, though, a few people did just pop out of nowhere and review it, so that was quite good. Yeah, and always welcome, of course.
Is the song Zima, was it written specially for the book, or is it just...
I wish. No, actually, probably I shouldn't use that, but that's a song by, who is it, Same Bay?
Yeah, something.
It's a good song, actually. I really like the song. Yeah, if ever the book starts to do well and
there's a movie,
make the film, I'll ask them if I can use their song for the theme music. But yeah, no.
do you plan on doing any more publishing, books, writing?
Yeah, I've got a book at the moment, which, as I say, I've kind of finished. I just need to. It gets a bit painful when you think you've finished and then you think, oh, it's still not right. So, at the moment, I'm in a stage of trying to think about what's wrong with it, and in terms of balance and things like that, I think there are a few things wrong with it. So I need to try to balance it. But it's a bit painful to think that it's not a huge book, this one. It's only like 80,000 words. But it's a bit painful to think, now I need to sit in there, sit around tinkering away with this paragraph or that paragraph, or maybe scrap a chapter and rewrite it. And so the thought of trying to do that is a bit obnoxious, actually.
And in the Zima Confessions, in the end, you said something about, well, the narrator said something about throwing away 30,000 words. So that was the amount of words you had written and edited out, or?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think it was as much as 30,000. I think it was like 2,000. I had 2,000 that's in the whole book. So I got rid of 2,000 words, or rather, the editor did. Lee Dixon or Dickinson pointed out that I didn't need all these that's in the book. You can take it all out. So that saved 2,000 words, just that alone.
Was the editor
in saying that? Yeah, he's like he was him and I were put in touch with each other via Indie Authors World, who I mentioned a minute ago. So yeah, having said that, so somebody was about to review my book, and they sent the review to me, and with all these mistakes that they said I'd made, and they wanted me to put all these that's back into all the sentences where the that had been taken out. And so I said, no, I don't need to do that, and I'm not sure if that's going to upset them or not, or if they're going to go ahead and put the review on Amazon, but hopefully they will. So I'll get another review up soon.
That's good.
Hopefully. Yeah.
Okay. So I think we've had maybe not a discussion into the subject of the book, but that's for the readers to find out. But we did discuss the writing process.
I must say, I find it a difficult book to talk about, because I think there are certain things that I want to be puzzling to the reader as they're reading it. I don't know if that would be annoying to some readers. I think some readers might find it annoying, but really that's the whole point of it, to unravel what on earth's going on. Why does this snake suddenly appear? Why is he scared of it? And things like that.
I liked the structuring that the book has, like 100 chapters, and they're all pretty short, pretty written. Like a chapter is a chapter. It's the end of an idea, of an action, and that seems to be very good.
Yeah, that's good, because I thought that was a bit risky when I started doing that. I thought, I don't know, some people might not like that I chop and change from one thing to another so quickly. But yeah, I was hoping that most people will accept that and like it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I think I'll stop the recording right now.
Okay.